This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. Today we have Chris Craytor. Chris started out on the West Coast as a trader and hedge fund analyst, and then he made a massive pivot. He's now the CEO of ACAC Fitness and Wellness Center in the Mid-Atlantic States and the CEO of Weld Health. On this episode, Chris will dive into some of the biggest challenges facing health club operators today and share insightful tips on actionable items you can do to set up for success heading into 2023. Before we get into it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new episodes of the Industry Series every Monday and the Celebrity Series every Wednesday. This is ATFW. So Chris Craytor joining me. And when you think in life about pivots, reinvention, I truly feel that those are such a pivotal thing for us to do to live our lives to the fullest. And Chris, you're a huge example of this. Talk to me about your early relationship with fitness.
I was an athlete, grew up playing sports, and really enjoyed just being active all the time. And so whether it be working out at the local fitness center close to my house where I grew up in Portland, Oregon, or using the college rec centers, I was always active. And, when I got into this industry, I really didn't know a lot about it. I was in the hedge fund industry, the finance industry, and thought I'd be there forever. And then my son was born out in San Francisco, California. We're looking for a change. Ended up moving across the country and joining ACAC Fitness and Wellness in 2004. And I've been there ever since. So I thought coming from the hedge fund industry, like, oh my gosh, this business can be super easy. How hard could it be? You sell a membership, you get somebody to come in. But there's a line that someone told me just recently, in fact, that fitness is a simple business, but it's not easy. It is something that you can intellectually understand, but it's not very easy to execute because, quite frankly, there's just a lot of work to be done in this industry, a lot more than maybe somebody from the outside would think.
And can you talk to me a little bit about that bridge from hedge fund to fitness? Let's talk about what does your lifestyle look when you're working in hedge funds? Because I understand that's a pretty intense industry.
Yeah, it can be. I was on the trading side of it out in San Francisco. So the whole goal was, get in at 5 a.m. and then hit one button at the end of the day so you can golf in the afternoon. So it's not maybe as intense as on the analyst side, but it was very different. Like when you were on, you were on. But it was a 5-day-a-week business, right? So you're working Monday through Friday, you're working quote unquote banker's hours. You have holidays that are off if the market is closed, and transitioning to fitness where, clubs are open 100 hours a week. In some cases, clubs never close. So unlike, the hedge fund industry where you're definitely on the clock while the market was open, in the health club industry, you have more flexibility during the day, but you're never truly off. There's always something to be done. And there's quite frankly, always something that could go wrong on any given day of the week while you're open.
Well, and that's a pretty bold move. We know sometimes in life, there's this fear factor, imposter syndrome, especially when switching industries. So what were some of your early learnings and surprises as you step foot into an industry that admittedly from yourself, you didn't know a whole lot about at the beginning?
Yeah, obviously I feel like I walked in kind of cocky. Maybe I was kind of young and I walked in and say, oh, I got this. This is no problem. So I think some of the learnings was actually just being humbled by how much there was to learn. I think that again, you're coming from this fairly complex, background dealing with large amounts of money. And then you're coming into a health club environment where you're dealing with more operational details and solving individual problems on a daily basis. So I do think that it was humbling in many cases. And if I could go back in time and say, wow, talk to my mid 20 something self versus today, I think it would be, hey, listen, be more aware of what you don't know. Be very much cognizant of the fact that you're not going to conquer this world in 6 months, and really try to learn as much as you can from everyone around you, maybe a little bit faster than I did, just because I think I came into it with maybe the wrong attitude, right? I think that I didn't realize how much there was to learn. And when I started, it was mostly on as you might imagine, on the financial side of things. Okay, what is the financial picture of this organization? But over time, I've obviously learned a lot of the different aspects of it beyond just the financial side in 18 years.
Those time machines really would be handy sometimes in life, eh?
I know, right? Like I go back and say, I really wasn't that pleasant at that moment, or man, I said something totally stupid and I wish I could undo it. But, I think we all learn from our mistakes, and we also try to get better every day. And certainly, we've grown as a company quite a bit since that time.
Well, and it is one of those things, I think those moments that make us cringe at our former selves, it shows that we have had so much growth in that space. So it's a win when you have the awareness and can reflect. Now, I do like that you speak to what you wish you had known then, because we have your brilliant brain here in front of us. And I know that for the fitness and wellness industry, like many others, but specifically this industry has gone through the ringer over the last couple of years with an element that was very, very much out of our hands. So talk to me about what you have seen in the recovery phase as we progress through the pandemic.
Sure. I think that you're going back about 30 months now, in those initial phases, first of all, the unknown was very scary. We didn't know how long this was going to last and what we needed to deal with. But the initial pivot to providing more omni-channel resources, being able to provide more on-demand content, fitness outside the four walls of a traditional health club operator became hugely paramount, right? Because we were trying to reach our members to keep them engaged. And for those who had either health challenges or concerns about returning to in-person, how do we make sure we provided avenues for them to continue to connect with the brand and continue to be a member and get value out of their membership with us? So that was an initial pivot. As we move through the pandemic, what we found is, quite frankly, that's a little bit less important, right? So it's great to have it. I don't think it's going away, but I think most of our members now are moving back into, and many of them, most of them probably have moved back into 100%, not doing 100% digital, but actually coming back in the club and having those social and physical connections that they were missing. Along with this, I think, as we know, a lot of at-home fitness devices were sold during the pandemic. A lot of people said, okay, I'm going to buy a bike or a treadmill or something, a rower.
Some people's, I imagine, are a bit dusty right now.
Some of them are, right? And I think there was the rumors of our in-person fitness businesses demise were exaggerated, right? But one thing that's really, really hard to replicate in a home environment is all the strength equipment that a lot of health clubs offer, whether it be the Olympic lifting or the dumbbells and the kettlebells and so on and so forth. And obviously, if you try to buy them during COVID, they were pretty expensive.
Or impossible.
Exactly. So what we found even since reopening is that many more members are gravitating towards strength. And I think across the industry, you're seeing fewer cardio pieces or less cardiovascular equipment demand and higher demand for the strength training equipment. And a higher utilization in those areas of the club. So as club operators, we're always trying to figure out, okay, how durable is this trend? How much do we invest in this trend? And I think it's something that probably was starting before COVID, and now even on a post-COVID basis is something that I think every operator, at least here in the U.S. certainly, is very aware of. That strength training is now, and the growth of strength training is now outpacing the growth in cardiovascular equipment usage.
Well, and I imagine too, even the social media space, we've seen it blossom with so many people learning to lift, really caring about form, investing, whether it be a personal trainer or a program so that they can learn to get the most out of those equipments. When you see these types of adaptations from the consumers, what have been the biggest struggles for you as an operator? Because you think from the consumer side, it was hard for us to get equipment and things like that. How do you pivot that quickly when all of you are in the same boat at the same time?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So you mentioned personal training. Number one, I think it really disrupted the personal training industry to be shut down for a while. So a lot of trainers either exited the field because simply the clients weren't there, or in many cases went to do things on their own. So rebuilding personal training has been a trickier part of the pandemic for many club operators. And you're also fighting what you indicated was a pretty big trend, which is kind of Instagram or other social media or YouTube, where people can take their phone into a club, look at the exercise being provided to them from some online source, and then replicate those inside of our walls. So you do see a lot of people using social media for inspiration of what to do when they come in the club. So I see a lot more phones being put up against walls or on pieces of equipment while people study what the move is next, or what the sequence of moves are going to be from their favorite social media influencer or trainer. And so for us as a club company, we say, okay, well, how do we adapt to that? Well, number one, is how do you hire trainers and make sure you're getting quality trainers into your facility? Very important. Then number two is, how do we make sure that the types of equipment and exercises people are looking to do are actually able to be possible inside of your wall? So do you have the right equipment? Do you have the right space? Do you actually have the right group classes that are meeting the needs of today's consumer versus the one that quite frankly, it was 3 years ago, it was a little bit different. So I think there's some of that we're always looking to improve upon, but obviously it's probably impossible to perfect.
Well, and it really is about listening to that consumer because we know their needs have changed so greatly through this. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see industry members facing now?
Yeah, I mean, well, the disruption in patterns and habits has been really tough. I think we all got used to this idea of getting up and just going to work. So let's start there. How many people now have at least some sort of remote work in their day-to-day lifestyle, right? And in America, I think it's 30% of jobs have gone fully remote or something along those lines. So, you think about that, how that disrupts traffic patterns and utilization is a really interesting one. I don't think it's fully fleshed out. So clubs that have relied heavily on a daytime population of corporate workforce being there either before, during, or even after the workday, those clubs are having to find ways to attract new members to their facilities that are, quite frankly, different than what they had before, right? Because they're no longer coming there at set times. The other thing that's really interesting is, you look at from a workforce is, as people were, the changing nature of childcare. We're seeing fewer kids being dropped off inside of childcare centers at our clubs. What does that mean? And how is that affecting the workday? So whether you're a mom or a dad or, taking care of the kids, who is actually going to be, kind of providing that care for the children? And many people are deciding, hey, look, I'm not going to bring him into the health club. I'm just going to do the workout at home. And then the last piece I think I'd bring up is that people are stacking their fitness experiences now. So by stacking, it's like the idea that you're having, maybe I belong to a health club, but I'm also going to take a class at a yoga studio, or I belong to a health club, but I also have some workout equipment at home that I subscribe to a certain service, and so you're seeing some of that happen. The question is for us in the fitness industry as health club operators is how do we become the most valuable part of that fitness stack? How do we make sure that among all the pieces of the health and fitness spend that a consumer might have, how do we make sure that our piece of it is the most valuable to that consumer?
Well, on that note, knowing that there are these subsects that have changed so much, where do you think the opportunity is in those challenges? If I understand, obviously, there's value fitness, there's luxury fitness, there's so many different things. So it's hard to blanket term, but where do you kind of see the overreaching opportunities?
Yeah, look, I mean, number one is I think you have to make it really easy for our consumers. I think our particular industry has never been, at least in my point of view as an operator, we've struggled a little bit on providing the ease of use from a technological perspective for our members. How easy is it to buy products and services, register for a class, sign up for membership? I think number one, reducing that friction for the consumer is really important. The other is how are we packaging and selling our product in a way that meets the needs of the consumer? For example, year-long contracts versus month-to-month memberships. That's obviously a big differentiator for different types of clubs. And how simple and easy is it for somebody to pick and choose the product and the service that's right for them? And then, on top of that, how we market to them. The marketing aspect of this and how we reach people. It's no longer this idea that you send out, a gazillion direct mail pieces, which is what it used to be. Everyone just sent direct mail every month, just what you did in the industry. Now, how do we find ways to better reach our consumers through digital means? So whether it's, leveraging influencers who you mentioned earlier, or it's making sure that we're in the right digital channels that are capturing the attention of our populations. I think that is something that, every club operator struggles with, is optimizing their marketing spend and making sure they're in the appropriate locations and getting the right ROI for that investment.
I love all those points. The first one in particular, because when you think of how people's habits have changed, there's a part of the population that's like, okay, I'm back to my normal life. They're not really thinking too much. They're in, they're out, they're back in the gym. But the other, there is that barrier, and almost like they've gone so far in that they really clamor on to that digital element. And I see it even when you look in the wellness space. If you're trying to book a massage and they don't have it online, you might end up going to another provider. So that is such a huge opportunity for the gym industry members to really make it, because that face-to-face interaction I know is so beneficial to sell those additional services, but that could actually be the deterrent for a huge part of the population right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, picking up the phone and making a call. Yeah. I've, dating myself. So I have teenagers, right? So,
Don't worry, I had a
getting them.
car phone.
Yeah. So if they're calling, it's like, okay, it must be urgent. Something must be totally wrong if you've actually decided to call, or maybe it's good news. But I think that the idea is they'd much prefer to operate in digital means, whether it be a text message or an email or online sign up. Quite frankly, if it's something that requires a paper and a callback and a voicemail, you're going to lose business that way.
1,000%. It's so important to recognize that because it's easy to do it our way, but times are ever evolving. So on that note, it's hard to believe we have just propelled through 2022. What are kind of the forecast trends that you're seeing for 2023?
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
I'll look at it from our perspective. So we run clubs that are, I would say, not super high end, but at the higher end of our market in terms of price point and offering. And I think a few things that we're focusing on. Number one is, really getting rid of, talking about 2019. There's this whole perception of, okay, well, let's try to get back to where we were, right? Well, maybe we should stop talking about that and actually start talking about where is it we want to go. And I think that, to the point you made of what are those trends, I think we're focused on how do we create what is a fitness business that captures today's consumer at the right price point and the right offerings, as opposed to simply trying to replicate what we once had. Because I believe that most clubs are recognizing that time is gone, right? And that we have to operate our business differently and change what needs to be changed in order to grow. Other trends that we're seeing is in our world then for our type of clubs is, number one, providing value for the price we offer, meaning how do we better connect our communities to our business? So we're simply not a commodity. We're not a $10 a month, a high volume, low price type club. So for a club like ours, it's not about having a treadmill. It's about having a program. It's about having space to socialize before and after class. It's about having the right trainers and the right instructors. It's about having the right amenity sets, whether they be aquatic centers or well-equipped locker rooms, and providing free towels and all the things that go along with a higher price point. So how do we continue to provide for our members the appropriate value proposition? And then finally, I think how do we better connect to the healthcare communities in our local markets? Because post-COVID, what we recognize is that the trend towards obesity in the States is going to be half of America obese or something along those lines by 2030. And many, many people went the wrong direction during the pandemic. Kudos to those who went the right direction. Many people did that too. But quite frankly, the number of people who need intervention from a healthcare perspective for exercise and diet is continuing to grow. And there are far more people who need this support than are currently receiving it. So how do we as the health club community offer programs and services that are designed to engage those who maybe don't have another option in terms of being able to provide preventative care? In the US, again, not speaking the Canadian healthcare system, we're not really good at prevention. We're good at sick care, not healthcare. And to me, healthcare is finding ways to keep people healthy so they don't need the traditional healthcare system. And I think that trend will continue. I think for us as health clubs, we've got to continue to explore ways to reach our populations who need intervention from a physical activity and nutrition perspective to avoid serious health challenges down the road.
Well, and you're not alone there in the States. We are in a dire situation in Canada as well. So I'm right there with you in saying this is something that we need to focus at, make changes, because we know that when there's obesity, and even if you're not physically overweight, the health repercussions of not embarking in physical activity are mammoth. This is a scientific fact, the mental health repercussions as well. So I know that you not only run in the gym sector, but you have Weld. So speak to me about what you're seeing in regards to this marriage of health, physical activity, wellness, because I think there is a big shift that's on the horizon here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think the shift is coming. We work with a number of groups around the United States, about 1,500 locations currently that we serve. And ultimately the goal is how do we better connect the healthcare community to the fitness community? And there's a wide spectrum of services that can be offered in our type of setting. and a wide variety of abilities to execute programs and services for the provision of healthcare in a health club. And so what we've been able to do is, number one, create a data exchange that allows the healthcare community to trust the data that's coming out of health clubs. As we mentioned the technology before, there weren't a lot of great systems to do that. So creating that data bridge and that technology bridge was really important. And then what we're seeing now is an increasing amount of coverage for not only health club memberships through insurance programs, but also seeing for the expansion of coverage to new types of programs and services. So in the United States, about 30 million people who are seniors have coverage that allows them free health club access. And it's pretty amazing. It's a little bit less than 10% of the US population can get a health club membership through their insurance plan. And those are only just the seniors. We're seeing more and more the younger traditional exercisers, the under 65s in the US, who are getting coverage through their healthcare provider as well, either through their corporation or directly through an insurance plan. So that's growing. So, as we see more people actually have free memberships through their health plans, it'll be interesting to see what the payer mix will be inside of health clubs in the US. How many people are now going to accept these plans as a method of payment instead of traditionally, give me your credit card or your bank account. So we're seeing that expand. And then finally, we're seeing coverage for things like diabetes prevention, fall prevention. We're involved in a pilot program right now with an insurance provider to study fall prevention to see if it's something that should be covered for seniors going forward because of how impactful that is in terms of driving overall healthcare cost. And also childhood obesity. How do we help those who are on the youngest side kind of tackle some serious issues that are going to be lifelong? So if we can help in some way mitigate childhood obesity effects, we can hopefully create healthier adults. So all of these things are starting to be covered, which is fantastic. It's not happening as fast as we want, but that trend line is going in one direction, and that's towards the coverage of preventative services outside of traditional healthcare.
And knowing that is a trend that's emerging, again, quickly, but not fast enough, how would you say health clubs should prepare themselves so that they're not missing out? Because based on what I'm hearing there, it sounds like there may be some additional dollars on the table. We know that if people are incentivized financially, maybe that is the step that gets them to walk into the door.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, call me. We can help you. That'd be my first thing I'd say. But I think one, study your options. See what you can as an operator reasonably provide. For example, if there's a pretty detailed, in-depth program and you're a fitness club operator that only operates with one or two people, probably not the right program for you, right? But if you're a studio or you're a even HVLP provider, or you're even a smaller franchise fitness operator, there are programs that on a very basic level provide utilization that may be a really good fit. And the pay rates for these programs continue to increase. I think historically, one of the challenges from insurance-based memberships is that the dues they provided to health clubs were less than what health clubs were used to receiving. I'm not saying that gap is totally closed, but I think it's closed significantly, whereby there may be more value in these programs than operators had previously thought. And then I would also look at here in the States, each state or each jurisdiction may have different incentives. So in the US, unlike in Canada, we have a very complex healthcare system. And I think that's a challenge, right? Because we're looking at a lot of different insurance payers in different markets and different states that offer different types of benefits. So I'd encourage people to just do a quick review of what may be covered already inside of your local jurisdiction, whether it be the state level or even a city or a county, and being able to identify programs that you can get paid for running today. Because quite frankly, there may be some out there that you could get paid to do that you don't even know about. And instead of having to reinvent the wheel and go down a long path of trying to convince a health insurance company to cover something, stepping in and running a program that's already has a defined reimbursement schedule is usually a great place to start.
Yeah, no sense leaving money on the table if it's there. So
No,
sounds like minimal effort with potential maximum reward. On that note, though, of leaving money on the table, let's talk economics.
Sure.
Because we know that We've made it through this very difficult time in the sector. We're seeing people return to in-person in a big way, but we also know there are financial waves afoot. We have seen interest rates rapidly rise here in Canada and equally in the States, and we know that the big R word recession is well spoken about. So how do operators best prepare to weather this storm?
Yeah, it is a little scary, right? I mean, obviously, anything that looks forward and says, "Man, do I think economic conditions 6 months from now are going to be better than they are today?" I think a lot of people are scared that they won't be, right? Me included. So, how do you prepare? First and foremost, it's really understanding all of our the rate environment in which we operate from a membership rate perspective. Are you charging the rates you need to charge? What is the ability of you to raise rates for your consumers? Right? Because one of the things that's coming along with the economic issues is that we're seeing an increase of prices. So not just a recession, but a situation where we have an economic downturn along with increasing prices. So utility costs going up, wages increasing, and so on and so forth, that we've got to find a reasonable way to pass off to our consumer so that we don't go backwards. Because, if we lose money as a business, we won't be in business for very long. So our goal here in terms of our company is to identify where we have pricing power to make sure we're, getting a fair price for the services we offer. And then how do we continue to find opportunities for elimination of costs that do not affect our people and that do not affect our ability to provide customer service at the level our members and guests are accustomed to. So whether that be identifying ways of saving money on cleaning costs, can you prepay for items? We provide towels. I just bought 6 months supply worth of towels back in June. Why? Because I thought they were going to go up and it saved me a bunch of money to pre-buy stuff. So I think for operators, it's really digging into your entire cost structure and identifying ways to save money, because it's going to be tighter out there. The other part that I think will be interesting to see how many club companies continue to expand their footprint and their offering, because with rising interest rates, the ability to finance, how much money is it going to cost to actually open up that new club? If you're getting a bank loan or if you're somebody who maybe leases equipment, can you afford that increase in cost? And by the way, the cost of shipping equipment is insane right now. Oh my gosh, it's insane. So, I mean, these are all factors that are coming to play now for operators. And, like every other recession, that's happened in my lifetime and many, many years before that, it will be over at some point. And those who are the strongest coming out of it, I think also are going to have great buying opportunities. So on one hand, I know it's a storm to be weathered. On the other hand, I'm very excited that once we emerge from this, whenever it does happen, that we're hopefully in a position as a company, but also as an industry to continue growing.
Well, and I think it really comes down to the willingness to look at the realities that are in front of us right now, because trying to turn a blind eye to where the tides are heading, that's where you're going to miss out on those opportunities.
And also, like, if you're a company that's running a business and you have, unprofitable business lines or things that maybe are distractions or maybe aren't, performing as well, there's now a time to look and say, okay, do we really need to be in that business? Do we really need to be, trying to be everything to everybody? Or can we focus on our core product and delivering that core service to simplify our lives so that we can not have as many distractions as we go into a time that has some uncertainty to it?
Well, you are a wealth of knowledge and advice, and I always appreciate people that have led a successful path and are willing to be sharers of knowledge, because I think it's how we all succeed in the end. I can't help but be an eternal optimist, though. So first things before we wrap up, what excites you most as you look into the future?
Oh, well, I'm an optimist too, right? So I'm with you on that front. And I think a lot as a business owner, while you want to be realistic, you also have to believe in the growth of the business and where it's going to go in the future. Getting back to an earlier point, I feel really, really positively towards the integration of healthcare along with what we're doing in health clubs or other fitness centers. I mean, look, the evidence there, it's very clear. I think what we're missing is adoption. In the US, the healthcare market is a $3.2 trillion industry. Okay. And health clubs are 40 billion, right? Maybe a little bit, right around there. It's hard to know anymore post-COVID, but it's about right. So if you're looking at that and saying, man, if we can have a piece of that 3.2 trillion flowing through our doors, it wouldn't take much on a percentage basis to make a really big impact. And then I think that if you're looking ahead going, into the future, what we're going to recognize as costs in healthcare continue to go up, the reward for being healthy will continue to increase. And so I think that convergence is going to be quite interesting. I also see that as more payers enter the market, I mean, people and groups who are willing to pay for consumers to have memberships, that it'll change the landscape in terms of what's offered and what kind of revenue is available to health clubs, because they'll be able to reach broader population. So I'm excited about it. I think, we clearly have a need for it. We have a product that everyone knows is a good thing. I mean, we're selling something that literally helps you live longer and stay healthier. And you mentioned the mental health piece. Actually have, the benefits of physical activity on mental health are well proven and documented. So you have this added bonus of actually not only looking better and feeling better, but also from an overall approach to life, a better opportunity to have the right outlook. So I think it's a great thing, but it will probably not happen as fast as I want. Of course, but I'm excited. I really am, and I'm really, really jazzed to keep moving down that path.
Well, and especially as you drop the trillion word, I'm sure it has some industry folks' ears perk up to help advocate alongside you, because that is a tremendous opportunity that's untapped.
Yeah, and really clear, just to give you a stat that I think a lot of people don't know. So in the US, again, going back to about 2019, there's about 1 billion doctor's visits. So the average person in the US maybe went 3 times. There were 7 billion health club visits. So now what do we do to activate that 7 billion? In the days where Uber Eats or, DoorDash or whatever shows up at your door with food or whatever the hell you need, or Amazon, you click on it, leaving the house is currency. So 7 billion times people left their house in the US to go do something. So how do we take better advantage of that activity and make sure that we're encouraging health clubs to really see their position in the overall healthcare continuum, instead of just being a place where someone jumps on a treadmill or decides to lift some weights.
I love that. Leaving the house is currency. I'm stealing that for future. Before we wrap up here, Chris, I love just hearing an inspirational or motivational nugget of wisdom that is something that you live by, because I think we all have those mantras. So what would be one that you could leave us with today?
Yeah, I think do something every day. What I tell everybody, there's a lot of big challenges out there. And I think there's this idea that, we're coming up with a recession and we're going to have COVID, or we're all these things. We've got to continue to be more resilient. And if you every day wake up and say, here are the 10 things that I care most about, and every single day you at least do one thing to improve upon those or to impact those, I think you're going to feel better. It's not going to be over tomorrow. You're never going to have like some quick win, but every single day get up and do something. And I think over time that will help you achieve the results you want, because this isn't there's no overnight success in business. Well, there very rarely is overnight success. And by taking the time to every day do something, and every day make one little bit of progress towards the goals that you have in mind, or towards those, objectives, whether it be personal or whether it be professional, that mean the most to you. I think 30 days from now, 60 days from now, a year from now, you're going to wake up and feel really good about the progress you've made.
Right on. Thank you so much, Chris Craytor. We so appreciate your time joining us on ATFW.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness, the Industry Series. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. New episodes of the Industry Series drop every Monday, and the Celebrity Series every Wednesday. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.